Hello, everybody. Tony Bacigalupo here with our what's becoming our like regular crew of friends here today. It's May 4th. May the 4th be with you and with your spirit and with your Force Ghost. And and we're gonna just go around the horn, see how everyone's doing, see what everyone's up to, um, and see what we want to talk about today. So, Taylor, I'm gonna go with you first. I see you got to leave halfway through for a work thing, but tell us who you are, where you are now, where your space is, and what's going on. What's happening?
Hey everyone, I'm Taylor Sherbine. I'm the community manager for a 8,500 square foot co-working space in Memphis, Tennessee, um, where I've been holed up watching the space through all of this. I'm now back home in Pittsburgh. We have a co-working. Our co-working space has been closed, and uh, we've been looking at reopening, and it looks like it's going to take a lot of work. I've been seeing people posting on Facebook, not co-working spaces, but just general people that like work in offices about like, oh, I'm jumping right back into it. And then just reading our city's return to work protocol and the requirements for office spaces. And it's not like co-working doesn't fit into one sector. We've kind of had to pull like protocols from office space and gym and retail to put together. So it's been kind of interesting trying to figure out like what is the minimum we have to do that if like a health inspector came by we could pass, and then like what's the extra stuff we could do just to help our members. So we're not reopening. We don't have a reopen date, but we're pushing it. Memphis actually reopens on Monday. Oh, that's today. Oh man. But we're pushing our reopening to June 1st at the earliest. But yeah, just it's going to take a lot of work, and a lot of like the hand sanitizer that we have to have stocked and stuff. That seems simple to do, but finding a supplier and having a steady supply is just it's going to take a while to get to that point.
Well, it seems like this is going to be a increasingly common part of our conversation in this in this meeting. So, we're definitely going to talk more about this. I'm just pulling up now the resource I started creating last week uh, that we can use for compiling information, and I'm going to put that into the chat. But while I get that set up, maybe we will go to let's go to Meredith and then to Dana. So Meredith, why don't you tell us what's the status in your world?
Hey guys, so Meredith Moore from Lexington, Kentucky. My space is base 110. So we have 22,000 square feet on 3 floors, and we're split between office space and co-work space and event space. So we're working on taking our steps to be able to reopen. Kentucky's taking it fairly slow, which is nice. I know my bosses are eager to kind of have some kind of plan in action, because with our private office space, that does give us a little bit more flexibility. It's more like controlling the common areas and the co-working space over the private offices, and then just people's like in and out of the building. So I've been working on a plan there. We've been gathering masks, sanitizer, cleaning supplies, those types of things. Luckily, with Kentucky being the bourbon state, a lot of our distilleries have been crafting hand sanitizer. So we picked up a good 3 gallons from a local distillery here. So supporting local business and, keeping ourselves clean. So that's been good. We've got masks on order, so it depends on when they'll arrive. With the 3 floors, it's a little bit tricky just because there's not like a one entrance, one exit type of thing. So our plan is to have kind of like a station when you get off the elevator, to where we'll have all of these things plus like a thermometer and kind of like a log of things that people, as they enter, they can take their temperature, log it on the form, and then sanitize if they don't have a mask, they can grab one, that kind of a thing. On top of that, we're working on like spacing out a lot of our furniture in the co-working area, and creating some kind of like dividers, because we have some where we have like groups of desks facing each other and kind of gathered together. So we're working on creating some temporary dividers. So, and then spacing out the chairs and those types of things. So that's happening this week. And depending on how fast we can kind of do those things, I'm thinking the soonest might be the week of the 18th, where we might be able to reopen slowly. But I'm watching all the other states and just kind of seeing what happens with numbers to see if it's a good move for us.
Got it. And okay, good, great. No, I love the idea of the station too. I just added that to the doc, like some kind of an entryway, kind of prep station, collecting info, whatever. So, yeah, great stuff, Meredith. All right, onward to Dana, and then we'll go to Jen and Penny.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dana. I'm from Rochester, New York, and I am just starting my journey to open a co-working space here in upstate New York that is created for women entrepreneurs. So in the early stages, still learning about the whole co-working world right now. And I've spent the last few weeks just focused on trying to build my community. Obviously, things are a little bit different right now with COVID-19 and everybody being locked down. So I've been trying to build that online community and some virtual events for people. So I started a group just about a week ago. We have about 45 members in it right now. And we're doing some work sprints and just virtual coffee meetups. And my hope is in the next couple weeks to get some of the members to maybe do like a little lunch and learn. Just come out for 15 minutes, share what you do, meet some new members. Everyone can kind of chit chat while they eat lunch from whatever room they're working from in their home right now. And other than that, I've been researching just competitors in the area and putting together my list of just contacts that I have and people that I'll want to reach out to when the timing is right to let them know, you know, what I'm trying to build here. So those have been the things that I've focused on the past couple weeks. So
you said you started a new group and it's got 45 people in it?
Yeah. I started just a private Facebook group. Reached out to a few people that I know, invited them in, started creating events. You know, in my about section just said, this is what I'm trying to create. You know, we're all working from home right now. It's a great time to support one another, stay connected. So, and the group has been really active. I had my first like virtual coffee, like networking coffee last week, and nobody showed up for it.
Oh no.
But it was the first event, so I was like, okay, don't freak out about it, because everybody's very engaged in conversation within the group. And I think now, and I mean, it was still early, it was only, you know, less than a week old. Now people are starting to sign up for the events scheduled in the future, you know, like the work sprint, and I've got like a mastermind, like bring to the table, you know, what challenges you're facing right now, things like that. So those I'm getting a better response on than the virtual coffee. So.
Gotcha. And did you get any, or do you still have an opportunity to get any kind of feedback from people that you were hoping would show up to tell you why they didn't?
No, I didn't reach out to anybody, and I didn't hear from anybody. So I just figured it was the first event. There were like a handful of people that said that they were gonna come. So I don't know the reasoning why.
Got it. Yeah, because the way that we always try to do things is to think in terms of, you know, ideally you vet and verify a program in advance by like asking people, hey, do you want to do this? Yes. Hey, how's this time? Great. Then I know I've got at least 2 or 3 or 5 people who said that they can go. And then if they don't come, then I can ask them, hey, you said this worked. Why didn't it work? You know, and whatever the reason is fine. I just want to know. And if we don't do that in advance of the thing, then we could do it afterward to say, again, like if your top 5 or 10 like super member friends, I always want to be like ranking and updating my list of my members somewhere, internally. Like I would have a spreadsheet of all my members, and I would have like a little status next to each of them that would be like numbered and color coded. So for example, like in this group with New Work Cities, there's a number of people that show up pretty much every week, which is basically everybody here, right? Some people who've maybe been coming longer and whatever, but roughly there's that. And then there's people who show up on occasion, and then there's people I never hear from, right?
Right.
So if I rank that, if for example I want to make a new program for New Work Cities or a decision about where to go with the group, I would probably personally message each one of you to ask what you think of the idea and to get your buy-in. And then or if I did something and it totally fell flat, I could probably message each one of you to be like, hey, I put this thing out there, nobody responded, like, did you see it? Like, what did you think when you saw it? And then I could trust each of you to give me an honest and compassionate answer. So then like success and failure isn't an issue. It's the way that we go about collecting information about what we did so that we can refine it going forward.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because we're going to be constantly doing this as we get better and better at figuring out what works for our people. And then as circumstances change, as people come and go, we have to keep refining it when, maybe you have a program that does great for a while, and then you see that it's starting to slide and you don't know why. So then you keep going back to that well and just keep that conversation going. But that this is also, I'm just like breaking right into like this conversation because we haven't talked about it in a while, but practicing this kind of loop of like asking, listening, and then adjusting, and then trying stuff, and then kind of repeating is kind of like a tried and true process for like anything that we want to do in the co-working space or in business in general. But learning how to use that loop really effectively will give you superpowers when you're trying to do stuff like figure out your marketing language, for example. And what I'm finding is, like, so for example, last week I did this screen-free gathering called Zoom Out, and it was a social gathering entirely over the phone. And the idea was, I heard people constantly saying, "Oh man, I'm overwhelmed with video meetings, but I still want to be able to connect socially." And is there, wouldn't it be great if there was some way that I could connect in a social way without having to add more Zoom meetings to my life? And so I said, well, I can do that. And so I designed an event that was all audio, right? So the reason I did that is because I was listening to what people were saying and they were telling me they wanted that. However, what I didn't do well enough yet, maybe I will get this right the next round, is figure out what that language is that's really going to hook people. Because I knew that there was this pain point and I designed a product that served it, but I didn't have language that really caught on. And so even though I promoted it fairly heavily for my usual standard, I actually had a really hard time getting people to sign up or even respond to it. Like I had like a few friends who were like, "Oh my God, this is great," but way less than I was hoping, considering what a big problem it is. And so if I do another round of this, what I'm going to be listening for are very specific bits of language that people use that I could try to pull out and use to guide, to say like, okay, when people use this phrase, I keep hearing people use this phrase. Let me put that front and center in my marketing. And so for example, I mentioned this fairly recently, but I kept hearing people talking about working from home, and I'm tired of working from home. I want to get out. I want to be around other people, right? I want structure and accountability, all these bits of language. And I heard people say, I'm tired of talking to my cat. I heard that like multiple times, right? And so I put on the homepage of my website, like, quit talking to your cat and come hang out with us, and I had people come in who were like, man, when I saw that, I was like, wow, this is exactly me. Like I actually looked at my cat from my home office and said, all right, like this guy's speaking to me. He knows my situation, right? And so, and even if I don't have a cat, I get that you're, relating to people like me, right? But the reason I was able to find that language was because when I was talking to people, I was listening to what they were saying, not just to guide what I do, but to listen for patterns of the language that they're using, and then using those patterns to clip out little bits that I could use in my marketing copy, you know? And so what I'm wondering now, and this is an open question, I don't have the answers, is if we're asking people about their current situations, what is the common language of their responses, right? And we know like overwhelmed with video is one thing. We know that parents dealing with young children pulling their hair out about that, right? And like just being cooped up in the house. But like, what are the really specific little bits of language that just cut to the bone of what people are really striving for? Um,
Right.
if we can be asking people and just making conversation, emailing, whatever it is, then we can be gathering that data and trying to find that resonant language. Does that make sense? This is totally unsolicited advice, but I hope that it's helping.
Yeah, no, that's great. Makes complete sense.
Cool. Great. All right. I got off into a rant there, but maybe we can circle back on it later, Dana. All right. We have not yet heard from Jen and Penny. Is that right? So Jen, why don't you go and then Penny?
Let's see. We're putting together we're not putting together, but we're launching our programming for May, our work from home membership. I was on a Zoom call with Jessica, my community manager, last week. We were talking about what's happening this week, and we completely did not link up the fact that we have happy hours on Tuesday, and this Tuesday is Cinco de Mayo. And like instead, we were planning like this family-friendly happy hour, and I was like, "What? It's Cinco de Mayo. We need to lean into this." So
Taco Tuesday.
right, and it's a Taco Tuesday, and it's so yeah. I was almost like ashamed of not making that connection right away when we were planning the schedule way back in the beginning of April. But anyway, so we decided to email all of our level 2 and level 3 members. These are people that are continuously paying us $189 or more per month, even though we're closed. And we said, this is not entirely true, but we said that we've come into possession of 6 care packages for this week's happy hour. And if you plan to participate in happy hour, and if you'd like a care package, let us know and we'll drop it off at your house. Right. And so and so then Jessica and I fell down more rabbit holes. We're like, what's going to be in the care package and all that? And we just made the decision that we're going to call a local restaurant that's doing margaritas to go, and we're going to do margaritas and chips and salsa and some coloring pages for kids that are kind of like, taco themed. And we'll drop that off at everyone's house tomorrow. And we limited it to 6 because like we can't afford to buy these for everybody. So we're being a bit mysterious about how we came into possession, but nobody needs to know the fact that we just can't afford more. So I sent an email out to those members last night, and I was like, first come, first serve. Who wants to be on happy hour tomorrow, and who wants a care package? So
wow,
that
is incredible. That is awesome, Jen. How did you
sorry?
How did y'all conjure this? Like, how do you produce these new ideas and decide which ones to move forward with?
I don't know. How did I come up with this idea? Well, honestly, I mean, part of it was the stuff that you were saying about you wish that you could send something to people. And just, I've heard that from a couple of different, sorry, my dog is doing something weird. I just want to make sure he wasn't gonna poop on the floor. That's TMI. But yeah, I mean, you were saying that you wanted to be able to send something to people, and I've heard that from other folks as well. And we really want to be able to thank these folks that are paying at this level. So I guess it started out as big picture, and then we narrowed it down. It's like we want to make this available for everybody. Oh, but wait, we can't afford that. So let's limit it, but let's limit it to the people that are at level 2 and above, because they're paying a lot of money. Most of them are not using the space. So we want to be able to give them a thank you. And hopefully this will end up costing us less than $15 per person. So $15 times 6, that's not a whole lot of money. for goodwill.
Yeah. Well, and it's an interesting design challenge to say, okay, I've got people giving me, X dollars a month, maybe several hundred a month, and I can't give them the thing that they're paying for, but I want them to keep paying me. So how do I provide them anywhere even close to that value? Hopefully more, but whatever. How do I provide them some value that's going to make them be willing to keep paying with the resources that I have? And like what you're describing sounds so cool that I feel like you could increase your retention, like over what it would have been if none of this would have happened,
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know how much we're going to publicize it, because part of me feels really bad that like not all of our members get this opportunity, but
So how are you deciding who gets it? I missed that part.
So we have basically right now we have 4 levels of membership. We have the 3 in-person ones, which is level 1, level 2, level 3, and then we added the 4th, which was the work from home membership.
Right.
So we are offering this only to the level 2s and 3s. Level 2 is $189 a month. Level 3 is like our offices, our dedicated desk folks, people like that.
Right. Got it. I wonder if there's a way to like invite everyone else to follow along and like offer them something too. So like everybody's getting a package commensurate with their membership level, and like send everyone else a postcard or something, I mean, maybe that won't work for tomorrow, but
Yeah.
That's cool. That's great, Jen. I'm excited. And how did people respond to what you had sent out before the first of the month last week?
They were fine with it. It's really funny, actually. One of the members I was really nervous about, because she protested when we charged her for April 1st. Jessica was like, should we just take her off? Should we just not charge her? And I was like, no. Let's charge her, but let's send her a seemingly generic email that says, here's a reminder, you're being charged. Like, this is an automated note from the system, And I actually included this graphic that Women Who Co-work made. What does it say? I can share it with you guys too. Oh, hello. Support your co-working space now so they can support you later. Keep your membership active. So anyway, so that was sent to her. She read it. She didn't say anything back. She was charged. She didn't protest. And then we sent her the care package email. And she was actually the first one to respond. And she's like, I would love a care package. Thanks for everything you're doing. Thanks for all your positivity. So
awesome.
You just never know how people are going to react.
Awesome. That's a great way of framing it. I love that. I'd love to see it. Yeah, that's great.
Drop it in. There it is.
Cool.
Jen, maybe you could send people a discount, like whatever this margarita place is, you could send everybody a $2 discount to their own or something like that. And maybe the margarita place would be on board with that. But that way you're sending something to everyone. It's just that a couple of people got the upgraded version.
That's an interesting idea. Gosh, I would love to do that. I feel weird about asking restaurants to discount things right now.
You can always just ask. Like they might prefer the business to having none.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even if you go to them and say, hey, I'm going to buy some drinks for X number of my members because I want to support you guys. If you guys are willing to offer me some kind of a deal, I will buy more drinks for more of my members. And like some of these people are throwing stuff out because they literally can't do anything with all of it, so just an idea.
Maybe they'll give us a coupon that we can share,
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'd say to Penny's point though, having a conversation with somebody at the store is probably an awesome starting point, just to say like, hey, I'd love to work with you guys on this. How are things on your end? Here's my idea. Maybe we could go further with it. Like in what way can you work with us? Because a lot of times the restaurant maybe has something to offer that you wouldn't have thought to offer, and they might say like, hey, we've got like an entire room full of nachos that we're trying to get rid of. Like, we'll just give you free nachos for every order that you give us if you're down or whatever. Like, you have no idea, right? So communication helps.
Plus
Taylor, bye.
your email list could be exactly their demographic.
Hmm.
And so that it could be a win-win. I mean, whatever, I agree with you. Don't do it if it's going to cost them money, but if it brings them extra business, that could be good.
Why couldn't I have had this idea like 2 weeks ago?
Well, you do have it for 2 weeks from now. Tomorrow is just going to be the test run. So, and look, this happened to me 100,000 times that I have an idea that it's too late to do. But, okay, Corona is a special situation, but the other fun thing is, and this is also just general good advice. If you think of something too late for like a holiday, something that only happens once a year or whatever, put all your notes on what you wanted to do and stick it in a recurring calendar entry for 10 months from now or whatever, 11 months from now, so that future you gets it in time and can do it right. Because all of y'all are setting yourselves up to be doing this for, the next 5, 10 plus years, right? Maybe more. So everything you learn in the early years, the hard way, you get to lean on the knowledge of for the future. So recurring calendar entries are absolute gold for this, and it takes things off your plate. And I have already recommended this in various capacities before, but like, when's your space's anniversary? Like whatever day your space's anniversary is, don't just put that on your calendar. Put it on your calendar for like every, whatever that date is, 6 weeks before it, or 8 weeks before it, or whatever. Start planning anniversary party. Here's all the notes. Here's the link to the materials from last year. Here's the link to the Canva flyer, right? Change out the number, print it, laminate it, stick it on the wall. Just take stuff off your plate, and that makes it easier for your team too. Where if you've got someone on your team who's doing community management stuff, like, wouldn't it be awesome if that person already has it on the company calendar? That, like, let's say my co-working space's anniversary is November 1st, that on September 1st, they get a ping on their calendar. It's like, start prepping for anniversary party, print these flyers, update these flyers, print them out, call up this brewery to get them to donate the keg like they did last year, etc. And then it's all just sitting in there. And then your community manager is like, hey, Jen, just so you know, I printed up the flyers. I'm putting them on the wall for the anniversary party. And you're like, what? It's like, last year I didn't start planning my anniversary party until October 29th. Like, now it's already on its way in September 1st. And the brewery said they're totally down to donate a keg like they did last year again. Awesome, So like, every time we kick ourselves, just try to think like, awesome, let me layer this in to remind me in the future. And that works for annual, and obviously it works for, monthly and other things too. I'm just saying it because I've kicked myself so many times. So, yeah. But I will also say this underscores another really interesting direction for like just creative ways to engage. And I think it can't be overemphasized the positive potential and value of this, befriending local small businesses. And that's universally true, but it's true probably now as much as ever because other local small businesses are hurting too. And so, I think we probably could actually really have a lot of fun maybe doing this as its own workshop. And maybe we'll do this next week, is to just do some research, identify, maybe with the help of the members, what are the most beloved local small businesses in town across multiple categories. And then let me get the contact info for each one of these, reach out to each one of them. Normally I would say that you pick your top 5 and you go physically in there and go hang out and, BS with them a little bit and try to get to know the managers, maybe the owners. But the beauty of small businesses, I feel like, I grew up in the suburbs. I grew up very distanced from businesses in general. And most of the businesses I dealt with were like chains. So there was no sense that it was a while before I really got a taste of like local small business. But local small businesses, like, I feel like it's so much easier to reach management, if not ownership. And when you do, especially local small businesses, you're going to find other passionate people, labor of love type people like us who are building something, because they care and they want to help people. And they're passionate about what they're doing, and they're probably struggling in some way or another. And there's so much goodwill to be shared amongst local small businesses, right? And if we tap into that the narratives are powerful. And I'm big into narratives because, again, especially in the internet, but in general, we struggle to stand out. We struggle to engage people. And all of the co-working stuff that we do might resonate, and it's good and it's healthy. But if we want to elevate to that next level of building something really legendary, something really special, something that people really talk about, then that requires that next level of creativity. And what Jen is describing is a really good example of it. If you then, even if all you did was tell the people that you were just going to do it and you didn't ask for anything, but you just wanted to say, hey, we want to just tell you that, this is sponsored by, tell our members this is sponsored by you. We're paying for everything, whatever. Just the narrative of being able to say, hey, we're supporting a local, our favorite local, margarita shop is such a great goodwill story. And it gives it that much greater chance that the local margarita shop is going to retweet your tweet when you tag them in the tweet. And then all the people who follow the margarita shop now know about your business, right?
Exactly why I wanted to pivot from just like going to the store and getting chips and salsa there.
Yes. And now apply this, like think about a really shrewd co-working business owner does this for literally everything in their space. So like when you're building your space, I'm thinking of you, Dana, for this, where are you sourcing your furniture? Is there a locally owned furniture store? Even if it's a clearance warehouse, whatever, could that be local? Could it be something, even if it's like the local wood shop donated an old bench that they had sitting around their wood shop that's actually really beautiful, but it was just like a tester that they had sitting in the back room. Hey, this really cool looking bench is sponsored by the local wood shop. You're building goodwill everywhere you go.
Right.
The staples are coffee, beer, foods and snacks, things like that, which if you can establish a local relationship is tremendous. We did this with, I don't even know how we did this. We were just like lucky, but Brooklyn Brewery is based in Williamsburg. And somehow we got a contact with somebody there and they were like, yeah, we'll give you whatever beer you want for all of your events. All you got to do is put out a card, our logo or whatever on it and just thank us. Like they were like absurdly chill about it. Like annoyingly, I was like, don't you guys want like more than this? I can give you more than this. I can like market you guys, And they're like, no, like just, put up the card or whatever it says that we sponsored it and just let us know how much you want. Give us 24 hours notice. You have to come pick it up. We won't deliver it. But if you come pick it up, you have whatever you want. And like, that was it. I just had a rep and I was just like, hey guys, we got a party tomorrow night. I'm going to need 10 cases of this. And they're like, okay, cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So you like, because a lot of times companies are very generous with product. Like they give this stuff away anyway as part of their marketing campaign, right? A lot of times a company has a new flavor they're trying to push, the larger ones, like I met a guy who's a rep for Truly, the hard seltzer, and like if you're Truly, all you're trying to do is beat, what's the other one called that's more popular, right? White Claw, right? So like, if you're Truly, like all you want is for people to know that you exist. And like, because White Claw is kicking your ass right now. So like, they just want people to start getting hooked on Truly. So they'll give you whatever you want, It saves you money, builds goodwill, gives you an angle. No reason not to befriend small businesses right now. And I feel like maybe we should do this as a workshop, is like do some research, find some companies, reach out to them and see what kind of possibilities we can conjure. It sounds fun. I'm having fun. Are you guys having fun? Okay.
I want tacos now.
We all want tacos. Penny, I haven't gotten to your intro yet. Why don't you tell us what's going on in your world?
Let's see. Here I am up in Erie, PA, and over a month in, no one has canceled their membership. So a couple of people downgraded their membership. One woman wanted to cancel, and I said, based on some hints I've gotten here, well, just keep your membership and we'll just, comp it for 2 months and then we'll resume we'll resume afterwards. But we'd, love to have you stay a member for these reasons. I enjoy her because of this. And so she did keep her membership. one guy, didn't want to pay. He balked at paying. And I'd worked out a deal with him. And then he had offered to do my, out in front of the building, there's a big sign, and we have never had a piece of it that is allocated to us that was going to have our name in it. I never had that done. And he does that kind of a thing. So I comped him the next 2 months in payment for him doing that sign. And so then that worked out. But I did have a conversation with him about how if he was renting, so these are all psychotherapists, if he was renting an office someplace, he'd be tied into a year or 2 years. And so I had that conversation with him, and then I'm comping him 2 months for doing that sign. And the value is certainly the value that he got. But so then the other people have kept a membership. So we have essentially 24 members, and they're still paying, and it's enough to cover my expenses. And so I'm thrilled.
Great. I'm
Yeah.
glad to hear it, Penny. It sounds like you're navigating it well enough.
Yes, and then I'm coming up with 2 programs, and I'm not coming up with them quickly. I'm just too busy right now. I'm still seeing my clients, and as a mental health worker, there's been so many changes. But, based on talking to you guys, I have members of levels of membership where people pay and they use our therapy space, and that makes sense for them because they see their clients in our space. So that part makes sense. I have a real low level where they can come in one day a week, and then a medium level where they could come in kind of unlimited. Well, nobody uses that level because as a group of psychotherapists, they don't need to come in unlimited during the week because most of them have jobs elsewhere, right? So that level, it doesn't even make sense. It's $70 a month. But based on what you guys have said, and then looking at their pain points, basically there's 2 pain points that I've been able to identify. One is that people need what we call supervision here locally. You got to be supervised for 2 years before you can actually get licensed. And so maybe incorporating supervision as part of that level. Anyway, I don't have to go into all the details about it, but that would be a valuable thing, and it is a pain point locally. And another pain point is having therapists who are wanting to launch a private practice. That is definitely a pain point. So really coming up with a program to help them, kind of similar to what we do here, but basically, we get together every week it probably wouldn't be indefinite. It would be like an 8 or 9 week class, probably based on a book, starting a private practice. And then I think that would help make that level be more valuable to people. So those are the 2 programs I'm kind of thinking of to make that level valuable because otherwise it's not valuable in the way that it's normally valuable to co-working spaces.
Right. That makes sense. I feel like it comes back to that conversation about restraint and kind of meeting people where they're at and meeting you where you're at. That just because we want to engage our community maybe in the same way that we used to or that our conventional thinking tells us to, it doesn't mean that our people are in a position to participate in the way that we want them to be. And it doesn't mean that we're in a position to produce things in the way that we want to be. And so meeting us where we are and meeting our people where they are, I think is just such an important part of this equation. And I'm really playing with this idea now. Like I started with phone gatherings. I'm then playing with this idea of like entirely over mail gatherings where you literally have a physical package and that's how you gather. Maybe there's a coordinated time when you're doing things and other people in the world are doing things at the same time. Or even to go that next step further, I think we talked about it at some point to say, like, what does it mean to decide not to gather? And to say, like, the best way we're going to support our community is to not put more things on your calendar. And that's actually the way that we're going to talk about how to help you make the best use of this time that we're going to help you defend on your calendar. Like it would even be funny to do an event where the whole event is to keep a block on your calendar for nothing. So it's like, come join for our event at 2 p.m. in which we will be not gathering. Put it on your calendar so you don't have anything else during that time, and make sure you don't make any other appointments. And then when the time 2 o'clock strikes, make sure not to join any Zoom meeting. And like, this is how you can intentionally make use of that time. I don't know. I think there's just like a really interesting reversal to be had with some of this stuff. So anyway, I respect your perspective on it, Penny.
Thank you. And the conversations here about pain points have helped me a lot.
Great. Yeah, it's a skill that will serve you well forever. The better, the more that it's like a part of the craft of business, but certainly of co-working and small business is that process. Yeah. Cool. All right. So we've brought up a few different topics, and I just kind of grabbed a few of them and ran with them. But are there any that we want to come back to? Is there anything that anybody's got a burning question on that they want to come back to? I'm just going to try to see if there's anything somebody mentioned earlier that I wanted to talk about.
I have something, Tony.
Yep.
So I've been getting some conflicting feedback about how to handle this messaging, which we kind of talked about last week about reopening. Some people are like really eager. They want to go back and start things over. Some people are more hesitant. And we've been asking our members, how do you feel? And, for the most part, people are like, still a little bit more time. But from a communication standpoint, I'm getting the conflict. So either I'm feeling like I need to almost over communicate. I want people to know what to expect, kind of like what we talked about last week about having a plan, having some structure, being able to really control the expectations if we get another ramp up and we have to scale back. On the flip side, I'm getting you don't want to be somebody's mom, basically having to constantly watch the members and be like, oop, you're not wearing your mask, or did you take your temperature? How that can get irritating and feel overbearing, basically. And so I'm struggling a little on figuring out where should I take those types of things into consideration, or are most people going to fall in the in the other category of feeling very comforted by things being over-explained to them, or is there a middle ground to consider? And I'm just curious on thoughts, and if you guys have thought about those types of things as well.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, just seeing what I'm seeing here, our governor gives a daily press conference, right? And every day he says a lot of the same things over and over again. And then I go outside and I still see people ignoring what he's saying, and I would say that probably the thing that's most valuable in your community is what is specific to your community. So what people want to see is how you are being a leader and taking charge in terms of how you're managing your community. And we can't assume that they know, and then we can't assume that they've read your last email, because most of them don't, right? And so when it comes to communicating about how you are going about figuring out what to do and what kinds of information you're using and what kinds of constraints, I feel like that's where you can err on the side of overly communicating is your thought process behind that. And I don't know, is there something specific, what do you think are the specific things that you're concerned about communicating one way or another?
I guess part of my fear is, as this happens, I'm the one that's going to be kind of on the front lines of the management of all of this. And I'm the one that sees, we have some members that are really great at following the rules, and then others that are a little cringeworthy, and those are the things that I'm worried about. Am I going to have awkward conversations and have to talk through this with certain people, or should we go under the assumption that most people, 90%, are going to be fine and they're going to, follow the rules and, be considerate of others. And there's just that small percentage that's going to be a little bit harder to manage.
Yeah.
I guess part of it's my bandwidth. It's a lot of new stuff that I think will end up taking a lot of my time, which I understand, and that's fine. But I want to try and do it in the most efficient and reasonable way.
Sure.
Where one, it's not a constant stressor on myself and whoever else is needing to kind of manage this, but also I want to be that leader and just give our members confidence. Sure. Over providing anxiety. And for me, I like having knowing. Sure. So I'm defaulting to what I know would make me feel better as a member. And some of that's supported with feedback.
Sure.
But the way our business has happened, it's been very self-sustainable and very casual. And to me, a global pandemic does not fit into casual and like self-sustainable. Like, I feel like we do need to kick it up a notch in order to just kind of protect ourselves and also to provide that confidence to our members so they feel safe in the space.
Yeah. I think, okay, so this is a great and a nuanced question and challenge. I think you can always find a way to maintain a voice that is in sync with the image that you're trying to project. And obviously, like an easygoing, friendly space, dealing with a serious situation has to meet that in a serious way. But it doesn't mean that you go from using lowercase letters to all caps. You know what I mean? Like, you can still talk about a serious situation in a friendly way. And it's about, you know, how you go about it. But I think it comes back to a larger question about, as an organization, how is the organization going to decide how it goes about handling the situation? So it's thinking through the strategic process of this, and then being transparent about what it is sharing within that framework. So if like, and I can picture me being a co-working space owner right now and freaking out about a lot of things, like being like, well, are we going to open June 1st? And if so, in what capacity? Like, are we going to open at all? Or are we going to open a little bit? And knowing that I could be endangering the lives of my members, but also am dealing with existential questions about my business. Like, I would be stressing about this and how to communicate it to my members. So I'm hearing you on this. And so what I would say is, okay, let's say that there is a system by which we say, by the middle of the month, we are going to decide whether we open in what capacity at the first of the month. And so then I know by May 15th, we're going to sit down and by a criteria that we determine, we're going to determine in what capacity we're going to open on this time frame. And then, you know, so then like in the shared document that I'm using, right, I'm using that as a draft. So I could say, okay, potential criteria for reopening, government guidelines, federal, state, local, our own guidelines, you know, informed by federal ones, like the number of cases in the area has declined steadily or has declined below a certain absolute number, whatever that is. We have access to the PPE and the cleaning resources that we need to be able to do it. Maybe some kind of testing access for later phases, right? And so we say, okay, we have come up with a 5-point criteria that's going to determine to what degree we reopen in various phases. And by the 15th of each month, we're going to decide based on those criteria what we do for the following month, right? So I'm just sketching this out off the top of my head right now, but you get the idea is that once you create that strategic framework, you can then communicate that to people and be very transparent. So it's like yourwebsite.com/COVID, that's like the one-stop resource for everything anybody needs. And you can just put that in the footer of every newsletter. Be like, you want to know the latest? Go here. That's where our FAQ is. And you can say right up at the top, our space is currently closed for X, Y, and Z until at least this date. We will be deciding on future reopening by this date. Check for updates by then. These are the phases that we intend to reopen and the criteria by which we are going to do it. And here's the FAQ for all the other questions. What if I have a piece of package coming to the space? What if I blah, 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 right? And like, you could punch that out in a Google Doc with your team right now. Have a meeting to go over all of it together to, you know, really get on the same page, and then push that to a website on a page, and then just have it available. And then the newsletters and everything can remind people of key things they need to know when they need to know it. Updates to that, whatever that thing is, as the updates come. And then just remind people, hey, this is where everything is. If something's not on there, post a question in the forum or reply to this email or whatever, and we'll add it to the FAQ, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that's helpful. I'm just curious. I'm sorry. Has anybody else like gauged your members' feelings or like how they're for your approach at all?
For me, I think my members have appreciated when I gather their input. I think I said this last week that I try not to kind of give away my power, and I try to say, you know, I'm really interested in your input. you know, I don't want them to ask them what they think and then have them think I'm just going to follow that. But I want to gather all the input, and people really do seem to respond to that. And then they say things like, thank you so much for your leadership. I mean, I don't even feel like I'm leading that well, right? They're like, thank you so much for your leadership. Thank you for being clear. I mean, some of the other co-working in space in town sends things out more often than I do. I don't really feel like I'm doing a good job, but people really seem to appreciate that I'm getting information from them and I'm contacting them. It's really only about once a month. I mean, there's another way where we are in a little bit closer contact, but I'm not getting information out there even as often as I think I should. But I'm trying to be super clear about what I'm asking. And then once I have made a decision, about what the expectations are and how things are going to go. And so I am trying to convey things in a very clear manner. So I'll compose my email and I'll go back and I'll read it again to be sure it's clear, because I hate non-clear communication, and people really appreciate when things are as clear as you can make them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thanks.
And that speaks to the notion of voice again, where you could picture that you know, that imaginary kind of landing page is taking the situation seriously without being overly serious. That you can say like, hey guys, we really miss you. We can't wait to have you all back. This is a serious situation. Here's what's happening. We're closed. Please don't try to come in. You know, if you need mail, contact us here. You know, like you find that voice. But I think it helps when you've thought through the process of how you're going to approach everything and everybody got on the same page with your team. And when you feel confident about, okay, this is how we're going to go about it, that then you can say, okay, now that we have some sense of confidence about it, now let me go write the fluffy copy to make it sound good, you know. Has anybody seen any good examples of like other published policies or like publicly visible pages? I feel like I want to post this to like the Content Alliance or something and see if, or maybe there's already a thread going on in there somewhere for this. I feel like it would help for us to see other examples from other people's sites.
Yeah, Pacific Workplaces had a good one.
Are you looking it up now?
I am, and then I'll drop it in the chat. Ooh, this is from Gensler, and it's pretty deep as well. And I think Proximity had some stuff. So I will just drop all this into the chat.
Awesome. Very good. All right. Thank you for that.
And then I think we already talked about the Cushman Wakefield 6 feet office video. And then Lear.com has a safe work playbook.
What's it called?
I just dropped it into the chat.
Oh, okay. Oh, I got it. Okay, got it. Are you keeping these links compiled somewhere?
Yeah, Jessica and I have a transition document.
Awesome. Very good. Where did this Google Drive from Proximity is wild. There's so much good stuff in there. Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna have to copy the links to this so that the folks watching on YouTube afterward can.
Oh, here's one more, the workplacecouncil.org, workplace-council.org.
Cool. Sweet.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
thanks. This is terrific. All right, I'll put this in the follow-up to the rest of the group as well. All right, very good.
Meredith, I just wanted to say, hey, honey, turn on that light again. I just wanted to say I hear you on like not wanting to have to play the part of mom or librarian, you know. Just I do it here. I don't want to have to do it in my space.
Well, I mean, and it rubs people the wrong way. I mean, one of our founders is very simplistic in his like roles, and like he manages another space too, and he's basically like, just respect your neighbors, don't get my grill, and like that's it. And for people who have been like around for a really long time, that totally works. But with the level of new people and old people, like it's such a variety. It's I'm hesitant for that to be enough.
Yeah,
And I just heard from people that, you know, in other, like some of our local competitors, like they didn't communicate enough to their members, and their members were like, that didn't make me feel great. Like I felt really left in the dark, and that makes me uncomfortable going back.
Yeah,
So
we've had a few people that are regularly still using the space, like 3 or 4, and they've almost formed like their little tribe, their little feral tribe. And they were all really PO'd about the email that we had to send out saying, we have to enforce the city's rule, please use a mask when in the open area. Like this little group like is angry about it. And it's like, we have to be in compliance, sorry guys. And then one of them was like, well, then you need to supply masks for all of us. And I'm like, look, lady, you can drive to the grocery store in one of your 2 Teslas and, you know, wear your own mask. You don't have to, you're not asking the grocery store to supply masks for you. So for her, it wasn't a financial thing. It was just like well, this is what you should be doing.
yeah, it's being inconvenienced.
Yeah. I am so very inconvenienced.
I do think that it's a thing that we're all, you know, going to have to deal with. And I have so far at my co-working space, and that is, you know, with people who are kind of being difficult, and it's not even always on purpose. And so, you know, that is one of the things that I found difficult about being a mom, is I hated being like that, you know, the enforcer. I really did hate that. And so having a co-working space and having to be the enforcer, and hopefully it doesn't happen very often, but, you know, I've got a woman who brings her dog in, and the dog is supposedly a service dog, but he's not with her all the time. And if I finally had to talk to her and say, you know, he has to be with you constantly. He has to have a leash on. And
Otherwise, he's not a service dog.
I know. And he's got this jacket that says service dog and whatever, like, and he's,
But is he really?
I know. And so then, you know, do I ask for like papers on the darn dog?
We require, like, we allow dogs, but we ask for proof of vaccination and like health, like their vet documents. And not many people do it, but if you do, that's just a requirement. So we know that your dog is well socialized and is not going to bite somebody. And we also require them to be on a leash and with you at all times. So, I mean, yeah, we did set that, and most people, we haven't had any issues.
I kind of assumed that if it was a service dog, it would be well behaved, and that was not a good assumption.
And you know, and that's what's going to happen is there's going to be some small percentage of your membership. The same person that does that with their dog is going to be the person who thinks that they don't need to wear a mask. There's just a certain percentage of people that's how they operate, and we can't let them ruin everything for us. So we just have to learn to do our best to deal with it, and try not to let it cause you to not want to do things anymore. Because I've let those people hurt me a lot, and you know, anticipating them and recognizing them as an opportunity to practice communication.
Yes.
We just gotta really practice that.
I agree. Like, I am so determined to speak up about things. Like, you know, in my lifetime, I haven't always spoken up about things, but at this point I am determined I'm going to speak up about things, and I'm not going to let things kind of languish because I haven't wanted to address them or because I feel awkward about it. And
Yeah.
so, you know, and then how to speak up about things, but also like without spinning on it, you know, from the whole therapy perspective, we can all like get so irate. Like this woman, she's doing it on purpose. Oh my God. She was bringing in dried beef lung. It has a foul smell. And she was thinking it's okay to feed the dog dried beef lung. I had to tell her she couldn't bring it in any longer, and she had to bring in a different treat if she wanted a different treat for her dog. Like, it's like, and then, you know, in your own mind, you're like, how can somebody think that's okay? Like, this is how we can all be spinning on things. Like, how could she possibly think it's okay? Apparently she can't smell dried beef lung. The stuff is foul. I actually went sniffing around the microwave area. I had my nose in the garbage and in the recycling to try to figure out what the hell was smelling so much. Anyway, how could somebody not realize? And so trying to kind of rein myself in so that I can just address this in a straightforward manner without all of this emotion too, because the emotion's there. It's like, you want to say, what the, I won't say it and be recorded. You want to say WTF.
You know, I feel like Penny, I've worked so hard to accommodate everybody in my space and harder than I should have, and I probably lost a lot of money from it because of other people who got scared off. There is some, and I'm not saying this is the time, but there's something to be said about firing a member.
And you don't scare people off, right? Because like if I have a certain kind of feel there and I'm accommodating people that shouldn't be accommodated, I hear what you're saying, Tony.
Jen, it's not a safe environment for other people that you know that they don't trust your ability to hold that safe space for them. So there's different degrees, and I found that I tend to be overly concerned that there are people that I think are awful, and then I ask other members, they're like, he's not so bad. Yeah, he's a little weird, but whatever. So like you get a temperature check from other members, but you know what makes me stand on this right now on this hill is the thought just entered my head of, yeah, you know, this is something that's every co-working space owner knows it. There's always that guy, at least one, you know, but the times when there isn't one are magical. Like I feel more happy coming into my co-working space during those stretches of time when there isn't that guy, because there's nobody who's currently signed up who's that guy. Like the worst is somebody who stays too long in the conference room or talks too loud or whatever, but like doesn't rise to that level of like makes me dread having to deal with them every day. And I feel like in retrospect, if I were being a little bit more assertive, I would just say, hey, look, this isn't working. Here are some other places you can go. And if they're like, no, 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 you can't do this, it's like, I can. I have the right to refuse service to anyone. You know, I'm real sorry, but it's not working. And they're like, well, please, can I stay? It's like, yeah, you can stay. Get rid of the dog. You know, like, obviously, like I can never picture me being that tough, but like even to try to get there a little bit, you know, I think it could be worth it. It could be worth practicing it. And I don't know that that's what you do with this one person, but one way or another, we're being invited to learn how to deal with that side of ourselves, confronting people who don't respect what we're doing. And, you know, whether they're clinically incapable of it or whatever it is. Actually, Penny, I'd love to get your, you know, if people talk about this on the professional side of like psychology of like, are there people who are incapable? I know like sociopaths are like incapable of like, or like psychopaths are like incapable of like having empathy for other humans. But is there like a spectrum of it that can also include people who are not less necessarily like clinically called one of those labels, but who don't understand the concept of like, me not wearing a mask could kill other people if I come close to them and I breathe on them. And for some reason that just doesn't enter my brain because all I can think about is I don't like how it feels on my face, you know, or like I'm fine. I didn't cough today, so I'm probably healthy. So whatever, the rules don't apply to me. I feel like there's like a much larger swath of society that aren't like the murderers and the sociopaths, but like still kind of like empathy deficient, you know. Like
Yeah, and they're kind of self-absorbed in some way, but I think in addition to the self-absorbedness, there can be a way of being in denial. Like we've all been in a relationship or we've all maybe had our own areas of denial, but some people are somehow in a lot of denial about things, about how their behavior could impact other people or about the seriousness of something, but it's almost like they're conveniently in denial because some part of their psyche needs them to be in denial. I don't know, but that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, I think you can put anybody on a continuum of something. And so, yeah, there are people who are, you know, diagnosed with a sociopath, and then there's other people who are oblivious for whatever reason. And sometimes you got to wonder, you know, are they doing it on purpose? And I think a lot of people aren't. Like this woman I'm talking about, she is being very careful to be an appropriate member. She's like trying hard. And I happened to see her house once because I dropped something off. I don't think she has a lot of friends. She, whatever, she had a knee surgery. And so I went in to drop something off for her. And she's just one of those people who's super, super messy, like very, very messy person. And her house kind of smelled. And I know that at Thrive, she's trying really hard to be super neat and tidy. So I see her making efforts. And I think she actually didn't realize how much that beef lung smelled.
Yeah.
And so it is kind of interesting, Tony, because if any of my members might eventually have to be booted out, she would be the one that would be kind of over that way. And I hesitate to do it at this point because I can see how much she's trying. If she was not trying, that would be different.
Yeah, well, and that actually helps. If you gather more information, that helps you to understand the human that you're dealing with. Because I like, we're going over time. I hope you guys don't mind. You're welcome to jump off whenever. But if like, I don't like the idea that somebody's just a jerk. Like, I think it's too one-dimensional. You know, like and I think pop culture, media, whatever, like gets us into this mindset that like some people are nice and some people are jerks, but like it's not true. Like nice people can be mean, and jerks can just be people who are in a lot of pain and who are lonely, you know, in ways that we don't understand. And so just you telling me that just gave her a second dimension where she's not just the jerk who has a smelly dog in your space, but also as a person who's a real human who's struggling, who goes home to a messy home and is stressed out, right?
Yeah.
And so that kind of compassion can help you to have conversations with that member to say, hey, when you do confront her with a situation, say like, hey, I could really use your help, right? Like, I see what, you know, like I see you working to be a good member in a space and whatever. Members, there are people in the space who are dealing with smells, who are dealing with the dog, and it's affecting their experience. And so I have to figure out how to deal with that experience. And I also want this to be a good experience for you. And I see that your dog is important to you. So I don't know exactly what to do. I just know something needs to be done. And I would love to talk with you about it. Would you be open to having a conversation about how to deal with this? Right? Now, if she's really, really defensive about it, you know, there's a good chance that she gets defensive, so be it. But you try to create the maximum amount of opportunity for the person to say like, oh my God, yes, actually, I've been kind of, you know, not wanting to talk about it, but I'm a little bit self-conscious about it because I'm afraid, blah, 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 you know, and now you're money, right? Because now you can work on it together. But you know this, I mean, just in terms of communication stuff, if we can try to not get into a confrontation where it's like, you're doing this and you're doing this and I need you to do this, like anybody on the other side of that's going to get defensive. They put up walls, they make excuses, they fight back, whatever. Oh, well, this person brings in their dog and, you know, blah, 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 right? Once it gets confrontational, you're screwed. So we try to say like, hey, I'm not going to try to trigger those defenses. I'm going to come to you in a very, very safe way. Try to not use the word you, you know, and try to not, you know, to just say like, hey, people are having issues with smells, people are having issues with the dog, as opposed to saying your dog is bothering people, you know. And that those subtle differences in language, like if you really dedicate to trying to work on those things, you maximize the chances of a positive outcome.
So what I did, because I knew the dog should be on a leash, but I actually contacted my insurance agent, and I knew he was going to come back and say the dog shouldn't be on a leash. But I did that because it was an out, and I told her my insurance agent wanted the dog to be on the leash. I set that whole thing up because it helped me wade into that conversation more easily.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry you have to deal with it. Glad you're not dealing with the dog smells for now. That's a silver lining to being at home. All right, y'all. Well, good conversation. Jen, thank you so much for those amazing links. And keep up the great work, everybody. We made it through another first of the months, so go us. And I'll see y'all in a week.
See you guys next week.
All right. May the 4th be with you. Bye, friends.